panelist is Mr. Srinivas Rao. He is the Chief Digital Officer of MTN Nigeria, with 23 years of experience in information and communication technology. He has served MTN Group for a little under 2 decades in the Middle East and other African regions. Mr. Rao recently joined MTN after serving as the CIO of MTN Iran for 8 years. Mr. Rao is responsible for driving the digital transformation program mandated by the group and board of Nigeria and scaling the digital services for the MTN Nigeria operation. Welcome, Srini. I say welcome to God's own country, Nigeria, since you've been everywhere.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Great. My next panelist is Mr. Austin Okere. He is the founder of CWG PLC and the ASO Leadership Academy. He has over 25 years entrepreneurial experience. He's currently an entrepreneur in residence at Columbia Business School, New York. He's on the advisory board of the Global Business School Network in Washington, D.C. This is based on his recognition of his contribution to the development of business education and knowledge transfer in Africa. Mr. Okere has taught at the United States International University in Kenya and has served as a consultant to the Sustainable Goals African Center in Rwanda. Mr. Okere is a non-executive director at Globus Bank and serves on the board of trustees of the Risk Management Association of Nigeria. Mr. Okere was recognized with a Lifetime Entrepreneurship Achievement Award by the American University of Nigeria in 2017. He received the Nigerian Computer Society Special Presidential Award in 2016 and was named ICT Personality of the Year by the Society in 2014. He was also named ICT Man of the Decade by ICT Watch African Digital Network in 2012 and was listed on the United Kingdom C-Hub magazine 100 Most Influential Creatives in 2016. He was named among 100 leading telecoms and IT personalities in Nigeria by the Association of Telecoms Operators of Nigeria in July 2018. He's a fellow of the Institute of Directors of Nigeria. Mr. Okere is also a member of the World Economic Forum Global Agenda Council. The company that he founded, CWG PLC, has been recognized as a global growth company by the World Economic Forum and is the largest security listed in the technology sector of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Mr. Okere, you're very welcome. I almost thought I should be standing reading your profile. Welcome. My next panelist is Mr. Onyeka Akuma. He's a Nigerian-born entrepreneur and founder and CEO of Farm Crowdy, Nigeria's first digital agricultural platform with a farmers network of over 100,000 individuals, 25 of them funded across 16 states in Nigeria. Prior to Farm Crowdy, Mr. Akuma held several top management positions in high-profile organizations like Travel Better, Jumia, Waka Now, and Conga. He also worked for Deloitte, the British Council, and Guarantee Trust Bank. He was appointed to the E-Agric Stakeholder Forum by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, Nigeria, and was made one of the youngest members of the Honorary Council of the Abuja Chambers of Commerce and Industry. He has been featured as one of the top 50 disruptors of 2020 by the African Report and listed as one of the 2020 top innovators to watch across the globe by the Globe Shakers. Mr. Akuma won the Entrepreneur of the Year Award by Gage Award and has been listed as one of the top 10 CEOs under 40. He was recently ranked the 26th most influential young person in Africa. He currently sits on the board of leading tech startups in New York and Lagos with a keen interest on agriculture, real estate, and transportation sectors. Mr. Onyeka, I wonder if your interest has any correlation with the Maslow hierarchy of needs, but you're very welcome.
Thank you very much.
Great. Last but not the least is Mr. Ibrahim Babalola. He is the CEO at Clan, a digital payment technology group where he leads the leadership of the business and its overall strategic direction and execution. Prior to his appointment as a CEO of Clan, he was the CEO at Muster, a prop tech that made living in Nigeria urban centers easier, where he introduced monthly rental payments, plug-and-play homes, built a very large community of upwardly mobile young professionals, and deployed a credit eligibility check algorithm that achieved a 0% default in home subscription rental payments in 15 calendar months. Mr. Babalola commands a broad professional experience from working across financial technology, commercial banking, software as a service, human capital management, and investment banking in Nigeria and the United Kingdom. Mr. Babalola has advised both private and listed companies on strategy, investment, and transformation, was part of the Lagos State government's delegation to Washington for the Lagos Smart City Project, a $300 million project in partnership with Microsoft and GE. He is also a consultant to the Enugu State government through the Office of the SME Development and Investment Promotion. He has been featured across local and international media, including CNBC London, Singapore, and Africa, MSNBC, Al Jazeera, and the BBC. Mr. Babalola, thank you for the support rendered so far to the SME founders. I feel you on the impact thing. I followed you on Twitter. Welcome on board.
Thank you.
Great. So moving swiftly on. So great, thank you everyone. And let's all get comfortable. This is meant to be conversational. It's also meant to be interactive as well. The audience will have a chance to please post your questions on the chat box and we'll get to the questions as soon as we can. So today we'll be speaking about technology in its entirety. The current pandemic, as we know it, has put us in a situation where conversation has become not only more important, but more relevant as it is touching every area of our lives previously unimaginable. Let me provide a view from my own perspective. I lead a team that focuses primarily on disruption and innovation. The COVID-19 for us is a disruption that has rapidly changed how we work for better or worse, debatable. What we focus on here at PwC is the better. How can your business take advantage of the now? What has changed for your business? What challenges have emerged and how can we collaborate effectively to solve them? These are key questions business owners must answer before they embark on any transformational journey. Whilst we're all in the business of problem solving, creative problem solving is where innovation takes center stage. When we think innovation, we index on technology as the enabler of the innovation. I repeat, technology as the enabler, not the solution. As we speak, most businesses are still under lockdown. So the need for less physical interaction has pushed every business owner to have conversations on how to acquire and retain customers, how to differentiate their products or diversify, how to become more cost efficient to maintain or grow profitability in the midst of declining revenues. The likes of artificial intelligence, blockchain, augmented reality to improve experience and efficiency comes to mind. I hope at this point, you're starting to see that the conversation of disruption are more positive than negative. And this is why the topic of today rings a similar tone. Setting up your business for success, not survival, the technology advantage. Now, bringing this closer to home, the panelists will attempt to simplify the concept of technology used across micro to medium enterprises, highlight the necessary technology building blocks, and introduce some technology tools that the MSMEs can use to achieve competitive advantage. At the end of this session, we hope all the participants, including me, will be in a position to refine, relearn, retool, and revitalize their approach, thoughts around technology. So I have been advised that there's a mix of veterans, new MSME leaders, as well as supporters on the call today. So welcome everybody. I hope your learnings in the next 2 hours will be insightful and enlightening. Please put your questions, like I mentioned, in the chat, and we'll get to them in due course. So I'd like to start my conversation with Mr. Okere. You have spoken widely and can easily share with us how much has changed in technology since you started as an entrepreneur. I can safely refer to you as one of the oldest SME veterans and one who saw the opportunity in utilizing technology for businesses. So since we're on the path to demystify technology, I would like to ask, what has not changed in terms of technology? What aspect of what hasn't changed do you see underutilized, especially by small or micro businesses of today? Mr. Okere.
Thanks very much. I think a lot of people get trapped by thinking that technology will do their business for them. So let me start by what has not changed in technology. And I think, Ada, you succinctly put it very well by saying that technology is an enabler. First and foremost, you need to decide where there is a need. So business happens when you deploy a resource to a need profitably. That has not been tampered with by technology. You need to sell your products, and you need to sell them at a profit, and you need to collect your money. What technology can help you to do is to hasten how your products get to market and how you collect your money. So you probably are an SME, you have a shop at Ikota, and people have to drive to your shop to buy. They have to see the sales girl in the shop and pay, and then they pick up the goods and go home, which means that you can only be making money when you are awake and at the shop. What technology can do is to help you to put your products on Instagram as well as in your shop, so that people can buy off Instagram and people can pay with a payment system, whether Flutterwave or Paystack, and people can use a hailing app to deliver. So you can have an app where people can shop into a cart and it's delivered to them through a logistics company that you don't control. So what technology has not done is the fundamentals of your business. The fundamentals of your business is to be done by you. Your business is done by you going out to say, I have some time and I have some ideas and I have some resources, but more importantly, I have a resolve to succeed at it. That you cannot hive off to technology. What technology cannot do for you is to determine your value proposition. What are the assets that I'm going to deploy to meet a pent-up demand? And it doesn't have to be any crazy innovation. I mean, if you look at Uber, people have always had cars that they park at the office when they are working. All Uber did was create a platform to say, when you are not using your car, let someone be using it to carry passengers about. And here is a platform for it. So technology did not create Uber, but Uber uses technology. You need to determine your customer segment. Technology is not going to do that for you. If you're an SME, you probably get into the habit of creating a solution that is looking for a problem. It's difficult to go to market that way. The best way is to look for a problem and then create a solution to meet it. So that customer segment. But what technology can help you to do is, for instance, to give you the cycles of your sales hourly, daily, weekly, and monthly. So if you're an SME, and I'm trying to break it down to the SME level, if you're an SME, you have a shop, and you have 2 sales girls, you don't just say, well, go for break at 12, and then you go for break at 1. No. It's important to know the peak of customer coming to the shop, which you do by collecting data, which a lot of us don't do. We don't work with data. So if customers are coming between 11 and 3, it might be better for people to have an early breakfast and a late lunch. So one person goes at 10 and the other person goes at 3. But in the period where customers are there, you don't want them to be inconvenienced because there's only one salesperson instead of 2. You also need to look at how you get customers, keep customers, and grow customers. Technology has not changed that. We still have to look for customers. Whether you are driving a taxi, you need to look for passengers to sit on the car seats. Or whether you are renting real estate, you need to find people to rent the house. Or whether you're selling the houses. Technology hasn't changed that, but technology can help you by you posting on a platform that I have these houses in these places for rent and somebody can come and rent it. So how to get, keep, and grow customers has not changed. The channel of delivery is one area that technology has helped a lot. We used to deliver letters by the post office. Technology makes it very simple for you to deliver by email or even on the website, and people will pick it up. But you also have to look at what are the key activities you perform. And the key activities, technology will not do that for you. That has not changed. It's about what are the things that I must do. I mean, MTN, for instance, realized very quickly that our business is not in selling recharge cards. So it quickly outsourced that to partners and started creating the value that we'll cherish, those higher values. And they use technology, for instance, as they're using now to bring us all together during COVID, to share experiences. And then, of course, if you have those key resources, key activities, what are the key resources? So you can't do everything by yourself, and technology is not going to tell you what to do as a key activity and what to have out to partners. You have to decide that in this my business, the key thing for me as a creative is to produce the creative pieces. My job is not distribution. Maybe let me partner with a logistics company for distribution, and then technology will help you in that distribution process. So at the end of the day, the business fundamentals remain yours. Technology is an enabler that can aid how the business scales and the velocity of business. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that helps. I mean, the one thing that comes across is that technology will not touch, I like that, will not touch the fundamentals of your business. You still need to own that aspect. It boils down to the fact that we say that technology is an enabler. It is not the solution, guys, please. We need to get that right. In terms of getting and keeping your customers, you need to do the basic. You need to delight your customer, ensure that your customers are delighted. Technology can help you stay on top of your customers. It also, according to Mr. Okere, technology will not create your value proposition. You have to do that as well. So thank you, Mr. Okere. Those wise nuggets from you. I want to quickly just announce the result of a poll. Apparently we have 555 people online. So well done, the Revv program. And the poll is, which area do you currently use technology in your business? 47% answered payment automation. That's interesting. 24% talked about customer management automation. 28, sorry, I hope I'm getting my figures right, yes. 32% talked about inventory management. 43% talks about collaboration tools, and 24% talked about customer management automation. Fantastic, that's great. So I would like to move on. Linda, are you there? Do you have any perspective on what Mr. Okere has just said? If not, I want to shoot straight to the next question, which would be based on, I know you, I mean, I read your profile out and you have a vast experience in technology. I want to know what the typical limitations are for small businesses when they try to adopt technology to drive their business processes.
Okay, thanks very much, Ada. I'm truly honored to be here. I just want to add to what Mr. Okere said. I honestly completely agree with him. In my view, the need does not change. The need is always there. What changes with technology is the how. For example, he spoke about the important and very critical need to build trust and strong relationship with your stakeholders in order for your business to be successful on the long term. That has not changed and it will never change. Technology will never, ever change that. Technology will change how you get to that end. It's a means to an end. So if you consider, for example, the trust equation, which is written as trust is equal to competence, which is knowing your stuff, multiplied by dependability, which is doing what you say you will do, and also multiplied by intimacy, which is genuinely caring for your customers, divided by self-interest. Of course, we all do know that self-interest erodes trust. You will see that the need to build trust still exists, even in this technology age. And perhaps the need is even reinforced because technology allows for long distance dealing. And you will all agree with me that face-to-face interaction oftentimes create an avenue for emotional connections. Now, if I have to move very quickly to your question, which is, what I see as the limitations that small businesses face in taking the critical steps in using technology to drive their business processes. I think I must say that a lot of our SMEs are indeed making very strong effort in getting digitally included. But in my view, there are three key issues they face with technology. The first one for me is discoverability or awareness. And by this, I do not mean only finding what is essential, but also understanding what is out there that can meet their needs. There is a saying that you don't miss what you don't know, right? For everything from account management to work planning to digital product delivery, a multitude of tools exist today. And if nothing else, there are pilot or trial versions that SMEs may use today to aid their businesses. But because they do not have a consistent way to discover these tools, or maybe they don't understand how the tools can be leveraged, adoption of these tools is limited for some of them. As an example, many SMEs encounter challenges with fundraising, basically because they don't keep accurate books. However, even little tools like Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets, which are quite ubiquitous and could be very powerful right now, could be used to manage this and make it easier to record, to summarize, and also to kind of present financial information in a way that makes it easy for them to access financing. Also, in the quest for new markets, some SMEs overlook the potentially lucrative export market opportunity that platforms like Amazon, like Alibaba, or even Instagram provide. Maybe because of the upfront work to set up the end-to-end logistics, which may seem daunting to them. For me, the second limitation, in my view, is funding. There is this real or perceived sense that, or feeling that technology utilization is quite expensive. Yes, some technology do cost money, and since we don't have extensive bouquet of locally priced technology tools, the tools that are available are often built in Forex, which of course could be a limitation. Having said that, when costs are contextualized vis-a-vis the anticipated benefit, or when proper side-by-side benchmarks are done, what we'll find is that the benefit far outweighs the cost. That is if and only if the SME understands how to leverage these tools for good. Now, the third one for me, which is the last but not the least, is capability. And by capability, I mean the technical know-how to fully extract value from the assets and from all the technology tools that are currently available. For example, there might be a need for SMEs to optimize pricing or service levels for some customers based on a proper and detailed analysis of historical customer data. but without necessary skills at using some of these analytics tools, this can be quite difficult and potentially will make these SMEs leave some value on the table, even if they are aware of the tools to use. So those, in my view, are the key limitations that I find today.
Great, thank you, Linda. You have that formula, you know, the one that talks about building trust is equal to competencies multiplied by, please, you need to put that on the chat because I need the formula itself. But you've talked extensively about building trust, and I like that, that beyond, you know, for any business owner, it's all about building trust and strong relationship. I think that's an area that most people tend to undermine. You talked around the key issues being discoverability and awareness, you know, not being able to keep accurate books, you know, fundamental issues, but these can make or break a business. You talked a lot about, I think when we look at discoverability or even awareness, it's being able to just read the trends in the market, being able to understand what is happening, being able to see where there is an issue, because wherever there's an issue, there's a business there. You talked a lot about funding. I know that 1001, I know that your initial, maybe last two Revv programs talked about funding. There are tons and tons and tons of funding out there. And you talked about capability and tech know-how. Now, the capability and tech know-how, I almost feel that shouldn't be a limitation because of the plethora of courses we have online. You know, in fact, you can literally run mad just with all the courses available, the training. There's just, you know, it's all about self-discipline. How well do I want my business to succeed? And if I do want my business to succeed, I need to put in the work. So thank you, Linda. Some great nuggets from you. Thank you. So I'm going to go swiftly on to Onyeka. And Linda's talked a lot about, you know, the export and the discoverability around, I mean, one of the areas that comes to mind is agriculture. And I know that you have, and you're still transforming what I call the previously non-digital services, such as agriculture and transportation. At the end of the day, with agriculture, I don't think you can go wrong, you know, because we need to eat. Now, in a recent survey by PwC, we observed that small businesses feel, and I think Linda's also talked about that, feel that they don't have enough knowledge to adopt technologies. How much in-depth knowledge will you say you had to obtain to start your business? And what role does technology play in your business operation? Mr. Onyeka?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ada, for having me. Now, listening to the first two speakers, Mr. Austin and Ms. Linda, I think one of the common things that I would start from in how we had to build our in-depth knowledge when it comes to technology was first we had to work on how we understood the problem of the customer, right? Understanding the problem of the customer was a major thing we had to look at. And in understanding the problem of the customer, we ensured that we understood exactly where technology was going to play a role for us in creating solutions for that customer. Now, in the agriculture space, for instance, and I think this applies to all the businesses that I've been involved in, I first put myself in a place where I am the one solving a problem for myself. I'm using technology to solve a problem for myself. I have a background in technology. I have a background in applied information technology. And so I understand how technology works. But in applying it into a business, technology is not the business. So I need to first understand who is the customer. And putting myself in the shoes of the customer, where I was the customer that had those issues, I was able to table out the problems that I was going to be facing if I was able to get a platform to air all of those problems. And so profiling the customer was the first thing. Understanding exactly who I was serving, helped me to decide what kind of technology I was going to use to serve the customer. Because there's so much you can use with technology. There's so many things you can apply yourself to. But when you start deciding who the profile of that customer is, it tells you what kind of technology tools you use. Now, let me use agriculture, because I'm taking the cap of someone in agriculture, an entrepreneur in agriculture, and an entrepreneur in transportation. But in agriculture, for instance, there were 2 customers for me, maybe 3, but the third one is usually silent. The first customer was the farmer. The second customer was the guy that wanted to invest in the farmer. And that gave birth to farm crowding. Now, in the farmer, there was an issue around technical knowledge, the right inputs, access to funding, the markets to sell. These were the major fundamental problems that over 30 million small-scale farmers in Nigeria were facing. And there are so many other farmers across the continent that face this problem. You wouldn't find this problem in the US, you wouldn't find this problem in Europe. And so it was peculiar to us here. So in deciding the technology that we're going to use to create solutions for these 4 problems that the African farmer, that the Nigerian farmer was facing, I had to look at what will be the right tool. Now, you see, small-scale farmers, people go about, say they want to build, for instance, you say you want to build technology for a farmer, and you're designing a smartphone app that will run on a Galaxy Tab Note and nothing else. Meanwhile, the farmer is one that he has maybe 3 or 4 people using a feature phone that can, the only thing you can interact with him on is either a phone call or an SMS service, maybe a USSD code-driven service. But you have gone to build a mobile app, and then you start finding it difficult to say, why is my business not touching the right farmer? You are completely delusioned from the profile of the person you are supposed to be serving. And so that profiling helps with what then do you use to touch those pain points of your customer. If I take it also from, so there's the farmer, then from the investor's end, there was the case of, I don't see the updates from the farm. I don't know if the farmer is working. I'm not sure about the investment I'll get back. So we have to do our own research for that customer. And in providing for that customer the technology for him, it was a website, a mobile app that they could interact with, something they are used to when they go on Amazon, something they are used to when they go on Konga, something they are used to when they go on Jumia. And that way, he was able to, the customer is able to understand and appreciate the technology that we've designed for him. And in connecting those 2 sets of people, we're able to create solutions for a wide array of customers. Coming into the transportation space, we are all used to a mobile app that allows us to order for a taxi that comes to our doorsteps. But no one was used to a mobile app that you could use to book a bus on a public transportation service system in Lagos, and you go from point A to point B. Now, I found out as a solution because I first experienced the problem that I didn't know, I had forgotten existed. I had to put myself in the shoes of that customer again. I wear a white shirt and a red tie, and I'm going to the office and I have to get into a rickety bus that metals are sticking out and there's sweat. And the lady that is selling fish is sitting beside me. Even if she's well dressed up and all looking cute, there's that smell of the fish that comes on my body, and I have to go to the office and I'm talking to all the other people. And so you have those issues, right? In designing technology for that kind of customer, I took what they already were used to, a mobile app that can help them get a taxi, and use that to create a mobile app that will allow them to now book a bus. And this time around, getting a bus that was air conditioned, that had comfort, that had safety, that had them look like they were executives as they really should be treated. Now, that in itself has been how we have applied technology to our own business. First, providing the customer and then understanding how we then strain it down into what the customer really, really wants. At the end of the day, we take the feedback from the customer.
We can barely hear you now.
Take the feedback from the community and consistently evolve this into how we handle our customer engagement, into how we handle our data, into how we handle our customer acquisition process, and gradually just continuously build an ecosystem.
I don't know if you can hear me. We can barely hear you. Great, thank you, Yehia. The last. Yeah, I am still here. Can you hear me? Yeah, so thank you. We sort of lost you in
Hello?
the last 30 seconds, but
Oh,
I'm hoping, no, I think we get the gist. I will try quickly. One of the things that stood out for me is what you said about understanding your customer. You need to know who your target audience is in that ecosystem. Then you can then tease out the problems and then identify the relatable solutions for that problem. I like the example you gave around the farmer, somewhere in the remote area, in the remote region, and then you're giving him a Apple, iPhone 11. Like, seriously, how would that work? But we have to be mindful. I think that my take out of it is determine the right solution for the right customer. What is required for a supply may be completely different from the owner of the business. So in other words, don't use a sledgehammer to kill an ant. In other words, start gradually. So thank you, Onyeka. Thank you for your thoughts. I'm going to move on to Srini. Srini, as the CDO for a not so small or medium business, there are tools you've deployed to ensure a certain level of digital maturity within your organization. The SMEs don't have to toe the same line as the giants like MTN, but they can focus on tools that provide the necessary ROI. For instance, we've talked about, I think Austin had mentioned, and Linda mentioned bookkeeping, accounting, ERPs, Salesforce management, workforce collaboration tools. I mean, we're all in our various locations and we're using a collaboration tool to make things happen. What are the important things to look out for when selecting the right app, stroke tools, and vendor? Mr. Trini?
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, very audible.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Ada. Thank you for the question, and welcome to all the panelists and all the audiences that have joined also. Pleasure to be here. I think you just started your question with saying me being a CDO of not such a large, not such a small or medium business. But the fact really remains that internet and digital age is a great equalizer. In this current age, you wouldn't really see the likes of, I mean, sometimes in fact, smaller and medium businesses are more agile. And agility is really the ability of an organization to be more agile, to be more responsive, to be more on their toes, be able to turn around and being able to turn around sometimes big behemoths, big ships like MTN is not really that easy. But I think in such an age, in a digital age, small and medium businesses have a bigger advantage in terms of trying to be more relevant and be more competitive. Which is the reason why big MTN as an organization works and collaborates and partners with a lot of small and medium businesses and relies on small and medium businesses to further the agenda of digital transformation and digital maturity. I think we are not really trying to do everything ourselves. It makes no sense. And I think Onyeka in his statement really pushed, put the hammer on the head. He's talking about identifying what the needs are, what the customer demands are, and be able to meet those needs and meet those demands where they are. And this is where large organizations like MTN need the support and collaboration and partnership of small and medium businesses. Now, coming back to the other part of the question in terms of what tools and what technologies could be used for enterprise use and them furthering their digital maturity agenda, or them furthering the digital transformation agenda. I've been the biggest fan of cloud. I've been the biggest fan of open source. And I think with internet is going to, I mean, in my opinion, I think we are just getting started in the age of internet. Internet in the previous decades, in the last couple of decades, maybe was only seen as a tool for messaging and emailing and so on and so forth. But I think new age has just shown us over the last 10 to 12 years has really shown us the new amount of use cases that can come out of internet itself, from ride hailing, ride sharing to hotel booking to almost all businesses. In fact, in the age of COVID, we see almost every business and every aspect of every business is being run on the internet itself. So internet will continue to drive business growth, business transformations, and digital transformations for all organizations. This is where I think small and medium businesses will need to focus a lot more on cloud-based technologies, ERPs. The age of on-prem deployments of various tools and technologies is outdated. You know, I mean, if we try to get a software, get a tool, and I think Linda in her statement also made a mention of trying to get tools with trial versions and all. But those trial versions, you are better off using a cloud-based deployment and use the trial versions of cloud-based deployments rather than the on-prem deployments. You know, these on-prem deployments only elongate and delay your go-to-market plans, your readiness plans, and your responsiveness to many things. So I think cloud-based will be one of the key aspects. And obviously, once you go cloud-based, you're obviously not worrying about disaster recovery sites. You're not worrying about backups, geo redundancies of your solutions. So all those headaches of technology are basically completely taken away by just thinking about a cloud-based technology. Some of the other factors that one need to consider whilst making decisions on best tools to be used within the SMEs space is compliance. Obviously, many tools and many technologies might be available on cloud-based, but they might not be acceptable under the compliance standards. You know, whether it comes to submitting for your taxes, or for that matter, even going for asking for additional funding. You know, some tools may be acceptable, some tools may not be acceptable if they are not compliant with certain financial standards as well. And I think one of the things that these cloud-based technologies allows you to do is also allows you to switch if a particular tool is not fit for purpose. If it doesn't serve you, it doesn't hurt you as much because you're only paying as you're going, and you're growing along with it. You know, so if you're only using 10 user license, if you only have 10 staff within your company, then you only buy that many number of licenses. You don't need to deploy a big server. You don't need to think about where will I be tomorrow or day after tomorrow. You know, so you will switch and grow as you grow your business itself. You will obviously need to evaluate multiple tools and multiple products, and awareness is one of the key areas and issues. I think also touched base on by Linda in her statement in terms of trying to understand and trying to research based on what is fit for my business. What do I need as a business? Because every business is very unique, and internet allows you to create tailor-based solutions from solutions out there. Now that you're thinking cloud-based, you will see when you start researching, you will see features. All we need to do is we need to start comparing between the features, and you need to just go for not those that have the maximum amount of features, but go for tools that serve you the best. You know. And obviously price point and costing of these tools is one of the key factors. You know, I mean, you can't forget as a small and medium businesses, price is a very important driving factor. Subscription-based model I've spoken about. Mobile first, you know, you need to make sure some of these tools are not really traditional installed versions on their laptops that you need to use only on your laptops, but it must allow internet-based apps on your mobiles. So these technologies need to make sure that you can access them anywhere, anyhow, and also make sure that they have enough open APIs to integrate with your other tools and technologies. For example, Atlassian offers a lot of services. I think even the likes of Flutterwave and the likes of other services that we have. They all have a lot of open APIs that allows you to integrate with different products within your organization to be able to make sure you are mature as a digital organization. I think these are my points as side notes in terms of what needs to be considered when making decisions on some of these tools and technologies. Yeah. We can't hear you, Ada. I think you're muted.
Yes.
You're muted again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Srini. Those were great points. I was writing and I couldn't keep up. Few things that came out for me, stood out for me. Digital aid is a great equalizer, and it truly is. When I think about the overheads like big organizations have, for the small organizations, they're more nimble, you know, they can afford to be more agile. Collaboration, that's something that I think most individuals and even organizations forget, that there's power in collaborating. You've talked about not doing it yourself. Even as a giant, as MTN is a giant, you are also collaborating with other stakeholders. I mean, the key thing there is to focus on your core and let the people who know how to do the other things, you know, do them for you. You talked about internet, you know, in fact, internet has, you know, when I think about internet, back how many decades, 2-3 decades ago, where it was more about sending emails, to think that internet, you can actually run an entire business just on the backbone of the internet is mind blowing. Another thing that I thought was useful for our listeners was because Linda had initially talked about it when she talked about capabilities. You talked about trial versions, being able to just utilize trial versions. Those trial versions will help you to hone your skills. And it's a case of, if you don't like it, then you move on to the next thing. I mean, that's the beauty behind all this subscription-based model. Cloud computing, I mean, we can't, you know, I think that's another masterclass on its own. Like cloud technology, you know, the ability to just put your business on the cloud and go to sleep, and knowing that you don't have to build multiple redundancies, you know, gone are the days. I know that at least whilst I was in MTN, the amount we spent on servers was humongous. You know, now you know, the world has so moved on. So, you know, thank you, Srini. Thank you. Those were wise words.
Thank you.
Mr. Ibrahim, so you run a different, should I call it a different type of product? You run a digital product company, which some of our members of the audience may not, you know, be familiar with or may not be developing for their customers. Now, this brings to the table, I know that somebody had mentioned outsourcing. The question of outsourcing for a business, how do you evaluate whether to outsource or keep operations in-house? What would you advise a new tech startup, for instance? Do they need to recruit tech experts, or should they outsource their tech requirements? Mr. Ibrahim.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Fantastic. Happy to be here. Thanks for the question. I think it depends on the stage of the business. It would determine what you should do. Like Srinivas said, for a lot of companies, for all companies, agility is important. For a new startup, you definitely won't be able to afford outsourcing tech or paying engineers, particularly because your product, you need to be iterating your product continuously, right? So the version of the product that you launch is not what you're going to need in 3 months, because the market would then tell you that, listen, this is not how we're going to react to it. This is not how we want it, right? For example, at Mustard, the previous company that I was CEO at, when we started, we recognized that we didn't have enough funding oxygen to gather to gather an engineering team. So what that happened was that I needed to then find a technical co-founder that could lead the engineering side of things, right? And as the business moved further along, where the business scaled, we're earning a lot of revenue, we had outside investors, we then gathered an engineering team, because the business had moved to a stage where one person couldn't develop the product, and you need as much as you can in terms of engineering talent. Now I'm at a way bigger company, right? That is further along. I have a local engineering team here. I have an engineering team in Germany. I have an engineering team in Ukraine that are all employed to clean, right? Because of the types of products that that we're working on and the life stage of the business, right? So we're servicing banks, we're servicing telcos, we're servicing straight to consumer products as well. Do you get what I mean? And the business is further along to the point where it can actually afford to have distributed teams across continents. So it depends on the stage that you're in. But as a new tech startup, I would advise that you get, if you can't code, right, get a technical co-founder that can lead the engineering development of the business, particularly because you're going to see that you can't keep up with the expense. So if you hire a developer to build your first app, right, and then you push it out, and then you need to iterate, so you need to move things around, and so you go back and you pay another money, and then you need to move things, so you go back and you pay another money, or or it just becomes redundant. A lot of things that you wouldn't need again, and I think Onyeka can fully appreciate that, because it's probably the closest in the tech startup world on the panel, on the need to continuously iterate your product. And as Srinivas said, agility is important, So again, my response would be that it depends on the stage at which the product or the business is.
Great. Thank you, Ibrahim. I like what you said about the gradual build. Most times when people conceive an idea, they already think large, and it's good to think large, because it should really be part of your roadmap. But you need to start, to a degree, start small. I like the fact that you said you've moved from a small to a very large scale. A very key point that you've also mentioned is how to form your team, making sure you have the right competencies in your team. I like what you said about getting a tech co-founder, because then he handles that aspect of the company. Very key. This is where things like board formation also comes into play. Just making sure that you have the right members within your board, because they can bring their expertise at almost zero cost. So thank you for that. I was going to ask you, just riding on that how does an SME, just quickly, get the required skills to move from being a digital immigrant to being a digital native? I know that human resource is a major issue for business owner. So how do you manage that?
I think that there is not a better time to be a small business owner. There's so many resources online that are available and free that you can quickly use to upskill, whether it's, the Google digital skills, or even go on Coursera or any of these products. There's just like a bunch of stuff. Now more than ever, you can easily find resources to upskill. And there are a ton of people that have walked the path that you're working on that are also happy to help, What I've seen is that if you seek out mentors, you always find them. Do you get what I mean? So online, you would find resources to upskill. You can learn. See, my driver is learning to code from YouTube.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? Like you can upskill very, very quickly, right? For free. Back in the day, you'd have to register for a program, pay a ton of money to access the same amount of resource that you can get now for free. And also because the world is fully digital, it's easy to find mentors. For example, right? I'm on this panel with the chairman of CWG. On a good day, if MTN didn't gather us, I probably would have had to, call his EA, that would then call his PA, that would then, do you get what I mean? But because of tech, we're here, and I've just plugged something quickly.
You've established contact. Now you can call him directly.
Now he's my friend. And
yes, he's your friend. Nice one. So thank you, Ibrahim. I'm very mindful of time, but I have to take two more questions. So the organizers are already prodding me. Mr. Kere, I would say that your firm AL Academy dives deep in aligning mission and developing leadership for execution. So what's, behind technology, we also need a mindset shift. What cultural change would you suggest businesses should embark on to embrace the full power of digitization? Because technology is one bit, but if you're not in that right space, if you haven't had that shift in your approach or in your thinking, then I think you've lost the plot. What do you say about that?
So Ada, you're right. And the culture part is big, except that sometimes we overlook it. I think the first thing is to wonder why small businesses in advanced countries grow to become institutions, whether it's Russell Hobbs, whether it's Thomas Paine. These are all people's names that started business. Guinness is somebody's name. And the difference mainly is that over there, beyond Boston Consulting, McKinsey, and probably Accenture, they have another layer, as Ibrahim was saying, of mentorship that is different from consulting. It's more coaching. And we don't have that here. So in our typical businesses, once the founder bows out, the business dies. And even the founder is not able to optimize the business in its time. And the whole reason is that kind of hand-holding about the cultural shift. So let me give you an example. Many of us start a small business and we feel that we are the CEO. And the CEO must behave in a certain way, must appear in a certain car, must have certain types of clothing, must have an office in a certain place to show we have arrived. So the first cultural change I did, and you can learn from what I did, is to exchange affirmation for accomplishment. The most important thing is not what people are saying about you, but what are you really accomplishing as a building block to building that institution. Another thing is people stay in the same mindset, even though there's nothing as constant as change, because they are happy with the security that what they know gives them. Take Alaba Market, or what they call this one, a computer village. Things have changed. Nobody is going to drive to Alaba Market to buy a fridge or a cooker. We used to do that in the past for some reasons, including cost. Today, the same cost that you have at Alaba, you yourself take your system and put it on Jumia. So what are you going to do? You need to start de-emphasizing that sense of security. I changed my attitude towards uncertainty. I moved my business from a reseller business. Ada, you said MTN was buying a lot of servers. CWG sold a lot of those servers.
Yes, I remember.
CWG is taking their business online and to subscription-based, because once you put the business on the ground, you covered all the costs. Every additional is a profit. You are at 80 and 90% profit, and you can scale. So you need to get out of that comfort zone. The other one is sustainability. So the cultural shift that I made is, I was always looking at the quarter numbers. Quarter on quarter, you're disappointed. But in investment mode, you are not going to be seeing profit at the quarter. I started looking at my success in long term. The Japanese use 10 years. Minimum is 5 years, or maybe 3 years. Otherwise, if you plant cocoa and somebody plants corn, because his corn yields in 3 months, you go and your cocoa hasn't yielded anything, Onyeka will know about this. You cut it down and plant corn. But you see there's a difference, because cocoa yields in 5 years, but it will feed you for life, whereas corn will just feed you for the day. The biggest cultural shift we have to have is one of trust. I think it's Linda that talked about that, and Linda gave a formula. But I have a very simple formula. I say to myself, whether it's Austin, CWG, or also Leadership Academy, perception is expectation minus performance. Perception is expectation minus performance. So if you set a high, or rather performance minus expectation, pardon me, perception is performance minus expectation. So if you set a very high expectation and your performance does not match that expectation, your perception is very low. So if I'm coming for the program now and I have this high expectation that has been set and the program does not deliver that performance, the perception is negative. It's about our business. So one thing I'll tell you as a secret, no matter what it costs you, say what you do and do what you say. Because your first business is not where you're going to make the profit. You are probably breaking even. You are going to make the profit in repeat businesses. And that repeat business will come only when people trust you. You know,
Right.
because whether you're a tailor, if you disappoint your customer once, twice, she's not going to come again, or you have 7 food. Right now, the shift we need to make, and this is the final one, is that turnover is vanity. People think that, oh, I'm selling, I'm growing, I want to give discounts so that I'll win the business. So turnover is vanity. Profit is sanity, because every business that you do must yield a profit. You know, and then profit itself, if the cash is not collected, is actually taking you to bankruptcy. So I'll say liquidity or cash is king. Sell, but
Right.
it must sell with a profit. And when you sell a profit, sell to people that have the ability and capability to pay. A lot of young people that are selling clothes from the boot of their car, they'll give to bankers and they will be selling and selling and selling. You're making a lot of profit, but you're not able to collect your money. So how is that a business? You know? And that's what I think is the cultural changes that I would suggest.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Okere. Perception, it used to be reality. Now, perception is performance minus expectation. Bear that in mind. Say what you do and do what you say. And turnover is vanity. I love that. It'll be criminal. I know that I have to go into questions and answer, but it'll be criminal for me not to mention the bedrock for technology use, data and broadband access. I am not going to ask the MTN members here because I know they will have a nice glossy answer for it. I'm going to conclude this panel session in the same style that I had begun with Mr. Okere. Mr. Okere, there is a huge gap. We can't deny it. A huge gap in broadband access across Nigeria. In what ways do you think broadband access can be made more affordable and available to the over 41 million businesses we have in Nigeria? We need help in that space. Thank you, Mr. Okere.
Thanks for that, because I myself sometimes get frustrated. I live in Lagos and sometimes my broadband is not sufficient to do. So you can imagine somebody that lives in my village, Ebelu Obube, in Owerri. Where is he going to find the technology to connect to these things that we're preaching today? How is the SME going to reach him? First point, I think that in farming or in plenty, the farmer must sow his seed and eat from his fruit. If we continue to charge high amounts in the state for right of way, we are eating our seed. Allow the broadband to come in. The broadband will generate economic activity 8 times that amount you're going to take from the tax on the right of way. And then your tax of the economic activity is times 8. In plentiful or in farming, a farmer must sow seeds and eat from the fruit. First point. Second point, let us take broadband to where it can be available at the last mile. There's hardly any town or village that doesn't have a tertiary institution, either a university, college of technology. In fact, that is why Yaba became the broadband capital of Lagos, because of all those educational institutions there, pumping broadband there. Because when they did the heat map of Nigeria in terms of broadband, the American University in Yola, they saw so much internet activity there. And they were wondering, who are these people in Yola using internet? And it's from that American University in Yola. They have a big pipe that goes there that pumps it out. Just imagine if every institution, tertiary institution, or even secondary school, every government organization has internet, then they can make sure that it goes to the homes and to the offices.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much for that response. I'm sure not just MTN, the other telcos are listening, the other ISPs, and the government is also listening. So I'm going to open up the floor for questions and answers. And I have like, gosh, tons of questions here. So please pardon me while I quickly go through. So my first question, or the first question rather, is from Priceless Jules. Priceless Jules is listening in from Kwara State. Thank you, Priceless. She's asked, how can MTN help the educational sector, which is fastly standing against herself? The school owners want students to embrace online. The parents prefer lesson teachers or physical appearances and are reluctant to part with their phones and laptops. The lesson teacher canvasses against online as it deprives them of their daily wage. Wow. IT in educational sector calls for rescue. MTN, the question is, how can you help us resolve that issue? Online teaching. I'll hand that to Linda.
Thank you very much, Ada, and thank you for that question. I think that it's important that we all try to embrace reality, whether it's in the educational sector, and I'm very glad that this participant is speaking specifically about education, because education is very central to what I believe in. I believe that it's a very critical sector that will drive future growth in our economy. The reality is that technology is changing the way humans live, it's changing the way we work, it's changing the way we play, it's changing the way we buy, it's changing the way we consume, and it's also changing the way we interact and we learn. So, I mean, if any teacher is trying to fight that, the person is going to be shooting themselves on the feet. I think the most important is for all of us to have that understanding that, wherever sector, whether it's a teacher or in the education sector, you belong to, we all have been dropped in the deep end, and it's either you swim or you drown. This realization is very, very critical for every single person who is in the education sector. I think that any business that does not find itself online in the next 5 years is very well positioned to exit. And that business is very well positioned to die. Please, this is my belief, and I really, really do believe in it. And this is basically because, the segment that will control a high percentage of consumption in the near future, they will all be online, and they would all want to meet their needs online. So whether it's in the education sector or wherever sector you find yourself, your business must be present and it must be well positioned for people to find you online. And that is the only time value realization will be feasible. Now, to answer the question as to what MTN is doing, to support education, we are very much focused in this sector. I believe we are the first operator to come out with what we call the Edu Bundle during this pandemic, which was a solution that was specifically tailored to meet the requirement of the schools and of parents. And we all do understand that there is an ecosystem that is required for us to make an impact in that segment. And that ecosystem is from access to devices, because parents are running away from giving their devices to their ward, basically because they have a need of it and maybe they don't even have access to buy more. So we are beginning to think about an ecosystem-driven solution that looks at ways to partner with potential organizations to make sure that from an ecosystem perspective, we provide a solution that meets the requirement of both schools, parents, and wards from an end-to-end perspective. So from an access perspective, the students want to have access to a device with which they will be able to connect. And from the time they get access to a device, they need to get access to internet, and then they need to get access to the content. And there are many people in Nigeria who are doing very fantastic things, curating content for the educational sector. And what we at MTN, we are trying to do right now is to build an end-to-end solution that will make sure that access to device, access to, to the internet and access to the content are all put together from an ecosystem point of view. And we make sure that, it's priced in such a way that everybody who needs to have access will have that opportunity to get access. Even if it's, you don't have access, you don't have the opportunity to pay at once, you will have an opportunity, to pay over a period of time. Of course, we are not a financing organization, but we believe that we are at the heart of it all, and we have the capacity to bring everybody, all the partners that, that are, operating in this ecosystem together and build that platform that will make sure that access is available to every single ward, every single student in Nigeria. And that's the promise.
Fantastic. Wow. Take that to the bank. Well done, MTN. Great. Thank you, Linda. Thank you. Well spoken. I like the idea of the access to devices and access to anything that would enable not just small businesses. Now we're talking about education. Just move forward, move that needle forward. I know that last week you had a session, Revv program was focused on educational needs. I would advise the audience to tune in. I think the video is on the YouTube, and just see what they've talked about there. This is for Srini. There are a number of questions that have come up around cloud-based technology. So I've got Oriscom Technologies, and I've also got Ingosia. I'm going to try and merge the two questions. It says cloud-based technology is truly the way to go nowadays for businesses, but it appears to be expensive. Is there any affordable cloud-based tech package for SMEs? The other question, which you can just take at the same time, is how do I set up a cloud system for my business? I'm aware and want to use the systems, but it could feel overwhelming without training or guidance. Mr. Srini.
Yeah, thank you. I think both of them are very valid questions. Number one, I can go in a chronological order. I think the first question, absolutely, we are working very, very closely with Linda's team and MTN is working on plans to partner with a number of cloud-based technologies and cloud-based services, starting from Atlassian and several others. I mean, there were tens of thousands of services that we would like to bring on board. And then create packages around them to be able to make sure that these are affordable. And that again, I'm sure Linda would be ready to commit on that too, because that's something that is at the core of her belief system. And I think she's been the driver behind some of those things as well. And I think work was underway. We basically faced a little bit of a hiccup because of certain, global situation between American sanctions towards several other countries and larger socio-economic conditions that were happening in the global trade war scenario. That led to a bit of a delay, unfortunately, but we are well under our in terms of we will continue to focus on this particular area and then make sure that cloud-based technologies become available at affordable price points, as well as, and we aim to do is we aim to create bundle packages in such a way that not only the technology itself, but the access to that technology is both culminated or combined into one subscription fee. And that is what Linda and the team are working towards. Linda, I don't know if you wish to add anything else to what I've just said.
I think that you've said it all, Srini. You're very correct. We have the interests of SMEs at heart, and once we do not provide all the services that are applicable, we are looking for a way to partner with every single partner or organization that is providing access to any of this technology tool that is relevant to SMEs, and bring a platform that makes it easy for them to access it at the right price. I mean, we are leveraging our science to make sure that we negotiate the right prices for SMEs. And please just watch this space. We are working in that direction.
Really.
Great. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Srini.
Question, I think, was about the, I think that the second part of the question was around the training and the knowledge and the understanding and how do you train yourself. I'd like to take a line from the speech that, or the statement that Ibrahim had made, which was, it's probably the best time to be an SME. And I think whilst this pandemic and all is a bit of a challenge as well, it is also a time where every one of us can continue to work on upskilling and developing our skills and understanding and knowledge of several technologies. there are platforms like Coursera and Udemy and all these platforms that are providing almost sometimes 99% discounts to audiences. And rest assured, I think there is a huge knowledge base that is available out there on YouTube and every other platform that allows people to be able to, once you start going through these training materials, you will be able to understand a lot more about these technologies. And you could make those choices very quickly as an organization. But not let that be alone. As part of the first question itself, we are working on these platforms that will allow users to be able to make those choices, where we will do a lot of comparisons of feature sets when an audience member is, when a SME is wishing to try and subscribe to, let's say an ERP kind of a solution, or a solution that allows users to be able to host their services or something like that. We'll be providing a lot of contextual analysis, like an app store kind of a thing. That is what our aim is, where people will be able to do rating, and you'll be able to make choices based on how the users have rated. But do not let that stop you from being able to develop your skills and knowledge, because people will have to do that hard work themselves. Nobody else can do that for them.
Fantastic, thank you. Key takeaway, MTN has moved away from being a telco to a digital solution provider. That's my key takeaway. Okay, so for Mr. Ibrahim, I have a question from Izebua. Please forgive me if I pronounce your name wrongly. Izebua Izebeye. And he says, is it advisable for SMEs to outsource certain aspects of their businesses, like the accounting and legal areas? How can we get access to firms offering such outsourcing services at an avoidable cost?
Absolutely, it makes sense. It makes sense to outsource the legal side of things and the accounting side of things. There are actually softwares that makes some of these things very easy.
Yeah.
There is Wave, there's Accountia for your accounting. I'm well aware of even of even startups that offer CFO as a service.
Yeah.
One of them is Ancestors Advisory. Just a group of ex-consultants. They formed a startup and are offering CFO service to startups. So everything that you would get from a finance department and a CFO, accounting, tax advisory, even helping you with understanding the unit economics of your business and how to optimize your business. So there are firms that offer that. For legal side, so you have startups like DIY Law, Longer Practice, that will charge you, Deal HQ, that will charge you very low, lower than if you were assembling an internal legal team, because you don't need an internal legal team, except you are in a business where you're going to be getting a lot of summons and people suing
A lot
you.
of litigations.
A lot of litigations, then maybe you need to have like a permanent retainership, right? But a lot of these things you can outsource. I would say that for a business owner, the core is your tech and operations. Those ones you can't outsource, or you shouldn't outsource, because you will run down, trying to keep up with the payments. Keep a lean team, keep a lean and efficient team, right? There is a company called Crisp. So Crisp is a customer chat company. They service over 20 million businesses. There are only 5 people on the team.
Wow.
Do you get what I mean? Keep a lean and efficient team, quality over quantity. As a startup, just started, you definitely cannot outsource your tech. You would run down. Operations, you need somebody to handle the operations as well. But in terms of like accounting, you can use the apps that are free and available, like Wave. Wave is so powerful that if you upload your bank statements and you tweak a lot of things, some things, it would come back with charts and graphs and stuff for you. Just analyze what you've said, what you've put in with your bank statement. And just like legal, what you might need is maybe structuring your agreement or reviewing some partnerships agreement, and you don't need a full legal team for that. So you can definitely outsource to startups that that have been formed to sort of ease that side of things. I hope I was able to answer the question.
Great. Thank you, Ibrahim. Call what you've advised is keep your call internal, your tech and operations team, keep a lean team. You can pretty much outsource anything else, like the idea of CFO as a service. Let me plug here that PwC also, you can outsource your taxation to PwC, even payroll to PwC. So just a plug. My next question, or the next question rather, comes from Chris Henry Ogu. And Chris Henry has said, many different elements contribute to business growth. This question is for Onyeka. It says, many different elements contribute to business growth. These include providing a good level of customer service, minimizing operational costs, and maximizing revenues. How can technology help my e-commerce firm achieve all this, especially in the time of a pandemic? Mr. Onyeka, please, can you help us?
Yeah, I think if you look around, I think there's no better time for anyone building an e-commerce platform than doing so during the lockdown we just experienced and going through this pandemic. Shopify in Canada right now is the most valuable company in Canada, and that all happened this year. And that happened because they're providing solutions to people that are building, whether they're creating their own stores, building e-commerce platforms, and that is taking these businesses to new heights. Amazon is currently thriving as a business successfully. So I think there's no better time than being in the e-commerce space during this pandemic. Now, you already highlighted, I think that was Henry, you already highlighted some of the very important elements that you need to take care of as a business owner if you're running an e-commerce platform today. Customer engagement, customer acquisition. Customer acquisition, for one, is where you put all your effort into the best form of marketing to get your customers to buy products on your platform. With my time in Conga and Jumia, I tell you this for free. The biggest converter for customer acquisition was always email marketing. That was the biggest converting to it. It give you 7% conversion, higher than any other form of marketing, except you are now spending a lot on search engine marketing. And then you're putting out keywords out there for people to come into your website to buy goods and services that you render. But email marketing is actually maybe one of the cheapest form of marketing. When done right, you will get the most when it comes to customer acquisition. And in going about email marketing, I mean, before now, I think LinkedIn has stopped that. There was a time I currently have maybe about 17,000 connections on LinkedIn. And there was a time that was a massive wealth of tool to use to get customers to get into buying my products. Whatever service, whatever startup I started out with, I start with telling my LinkedIn connections about it, and it always gets me my first set of customers. So going about smart ways of getting customers into understanding, and especially if you're in the e-commerce space, finding the smart ways of selling yourself with email marketing is important. Social media is also important. But one thing I see that a lot of entrepreneurs miss out on is how to tell the story of your startup. The PR around telling people why your startup is different from the others is something that a lot of e-commerce players miss out on. And so if you're in that space, you need to find ways to consistently be in the news to tell your story, and so that customers know that you exist and they want to buy from you, right? Then you mentioned customer engagement, because it's one thing to bring the customer in. It's the next thing to continue to get a very good lifetime value of that customer, where he buys the first product and he buys the second product and he buys the third product. And that level of engagement comes from many of the things that have been mentioned in this session. I remember, I think Linda mentioned the trust factor, competency, consistency, and relationship. Building relationship with your customers will keep them a long time. Engaging them in understanding how they find their products will keep them a long time. Also, designing your website. And these are a lot of mentioned tools and a lot of data analysis you need to do in analyzing your website to make sure you understand where are your customers landing, where are they falling out from, how easy is it for them to see what they want to buy, pay for it, and leave. How is it for you to remarket to them new things that you potentially see that they will come back to buying, assuming they bought the first product from you. So if they buy a phone, maybe they will need a charger, maybe they will need an earpiece. And so that smart data analysis and smart data marketing is very important for anyone in the e-commerce space. Now, having said all of this, I will reemphasize one very important factor: PR, telling your stories. Please don't keep this till you are $100 million business. You will find a very successful business that does this effectively from the time they're $1,000 business to the time they're a $10,000 business to the time they're $1 million business. And what you would have is brand affiliation from customers that are proud about what that particular brand represents. So do well to grow in this part. Then if you're in e-commerce space, you will always need funding to make sure that all your systems are in place. The biggest where monies that are raised by the e-commerce giants goes into is in the logistics channel. You've got to tidy up all of this because after all this is said and done, the reason why customers constantly continue to come back to you is because you are effective in how they pay for the product. So you've acquired them, you've engaged them, they paid for the product, and it gets to their doorstep. If you can beat all of these things into place, you will have a successful e-commerce platform.
Wow. I feel as though business owners can't go wrong with all the nuggets that are being shared on this platform. Thank you, Onyeka. So just to bring everybody up to speed, 576 people we have online, so well done. And I want to also mention that we have a selection poll, which will start at 11:45. And this poll will form part of the selection criteria for the yellow 200. So I urge everyone to participate. I believe that there's information around the 200 special people. I think there's mentoring and coaching for 6 months. I need somebody from MTN to just clarify that. But one thing I want to take out from Onyeka's comment is the use of data analytics for all your online channels to ascertain your customer behavior. You have to remember, gone are the days where whatever you throw out to the customer is what they buy. Now, the customers are extremely savvy. They know what they want and they know where to get it from. So if you're not able to ascertain the behavior and the pattern of your customers, then I think you've sort of lost, to a degree, you've lost the plot. And the PR, interestingly enough, tell your story. But then Onyeka, the question I would ask is, sometimes that telling of the story can be, how do you strike a balance of telling the story and not bombarding people with unnecessary, should I say unnecessary information?
Yeah, I think you've got to be really strategic about it. The telling of stories for me is not just told by me alone. I tell stories with real events. So if I was talking to the Plenty Worker team yesterday. I can tell stories with our culture in the office, and I make you fall in love with the brand around the culture. So I'm not consistently telling you, come and buy, come and buy, come and buy. I tell you how I'm a real human being that is creating solutions for you. I tell you stories of what I have to go through on a daily basis. It's more interesting and more relatable for the customer to appreciate the efforts I have to put in place for them to get whatever service they require. So it's not, you've got to be strategic. I don't constantly bombard. I won't tell you, hey, buy my product. Hey, buy my product. I would find ways of giving you information. I'll find ways of educating you. I'll find ways of exposing, being vulnerable to you with some of the experience I've gone through. And a very perfect example of someone that's done this successfully is Richard Branson of Virgin. I remember he was when in one of his book, Think Like a Virgin. He said how he got into a parachute and was trying to go around the world with that parachute. Eventually, it crash landed in the sea. And the story was that Richard Branson had crash landed in the sea with a parachute. But what people didn't recognize, because it made the front page of the newspapers at that time, was that there was a big Virgin logo that subconsciously was in people's faces. And it got to the front page of newspapers with a big Virgin logo. Now, he said he's not telling people to go into parachutes and crash into the sea. But in telling real stories about himself, people are able to relate with him better. I will use an example on this call. Mr. Austin, okay, I know we respect Mr. Austin for CWG, but the impact he's had more with entrepreneurs has come after CWG's work.
Yeah.
And that is because he's telling stories now with people. He's connecting people with his own problems. I listen to him and I learn from his problems as against learning from him while he was in CWG. Now that in itself is storytelling that draws me to his brand more today than while he was running CWG. So that for me is how you become strategic. I will be in your face without consciously telling you to buy my product, buy my product. At the end of the day, I want to be in his academy. Not because he's telling me to join his academy, but because I hear the stories he's telling. So I'm using that as an example. So that is for me how storytelling is done.
Perfect. Thank you. You hit the nail on the head, and thank you. I think we're all lining up for that academy because the nuggets that come out from there is just impactful. Mr. Okere, so Albert Uday has asked, can you please explain what turnover is vanity? What does that mean?
Yes, Albert. I fell into that trap myself, and I know a lot of us fall into that trap. So let me give clear examples. As Onyeka says, examples bring it home. When we were competing as resellers, as a business, a small business, the 4 models of competition, you are not able to apply all, and the 4 are simple. One is technology leadership. This is for Apple, Samsung, and so on. They get you to the shop to buy with new models. I don't have that breadth and depth to produce new technology to compete on that front. The second is service excellence. I can compete on that because I can take an Oracle server and add a lot of services onto it and give it to MTN, or I can give them the best support or warranty service. The third is customer intimacy. To know the customer to the extent that you know what they will need even before they know it, and you advise them. I'm sure that Onyeka will have some of that, telling the farmers what they need before they even know that they need it. They will probably be the one to bring drip technology into Nigeria. So knowing the customer that well and aligning your solutions very vertically to that customer's needs. And the fourth one is cost leadership. I very much don't like that because no matter how cheap you go, they're cheaper than cheap. So when I say turnover is vanity, the only competitive model we use in Nigeria, the one we use most, is cost competitiveness. There was a time when the telecom companies were, in my view, racing to the bottom. They were all cutting prices on data, they should. But it should be driven by a direct strategy than response to what somebody is doing. And they were all racing to the bottom. I mean, the thing about the rat race is that even if you win, you're still a rat. And that's what we're all doing. Oh, let me sell below cost so that I'll get turnover. And everybody is doing the same thing. Tomorrow will be better. That tomorrow doesn't come unless, the example is this. You are into selling electricity. and let's say in jobs, and you want people to use your electricity. So you sell them fridge at cost, television at cost. Why? Because you are using it to drive electricity sales. And your electricity sales is very profitable. So there's a loss leader that you are using to sell and make profits and collect money. A lot of us say, oh, my turnover is, or my sales volume is 100 million, 200 million, that's fine. But what is the margin of profit when you take out all the costs? And some costs are hidden, the fixed costs, your tax, your rent, your electricity, those are not direct costs. So they are not captured. They hit you at the end of the day. You see that you're almost in negative. That's why I say that be careful of turnover. There is good turnover and there is bad turnover. Turnover that I'm selling below my competitor so that I'll get it can be dangerous. When I say profit is sanity, it's a check on the turnover. Because every sale has to be done profitably. You take a service, you deliver it, you make a margin so that you invest more in the business. So if at the end of the day, we are not making profit with that huge turnover, then we're going to be what we call overtrading to the point of illiquidity. And coming to illiquidity, when you have sold, have you collected your money and you collect it on time? And that's where the problem is. The problem is that when you go to the bank to ask them for a loan, the first thing they'll ask you is, show me your account. Like, was it Linda that said it, records. Where are your records? They look at your record, they see what they call receivables. And it happened to CWG. We had 2 billion receivables out, and we're looking for 1 billion facility. Of course, nobody will give you that because you have the money. It's said that it's in customers' hands. And some of them were so old, above 200 days, they will not pay. The problem with one receivable going bad, if you are selling at 10% margin, it means that if you sell 1 million, you get 100,000. Now, if a customer owes you 1 million and is not ever going to pay, how much would you sell to make that money back? It's just like selling phones and they steal one phone. That's the profit of 20 phones in that one phone stolen. So CWG was making huge turnover. But at the end of the day, because we're not disciplined with receivables and collections, it didn't translate to prosperity until we corrected that. I hope that makes sense.
Sure, it sure does. It sure does. So what I've quickly taken from that, 4 models of competition: technology leadership, service excellence, customer intimacy, cost leadership. Thank you, Mr. Okere. I would maybe take 2 more questions. Ibrahim, this question is for you. If I can find it. I have Jefta Amos Tajem. He is a general practitioner into private practice, running a hospital in the Northeast. He says, my hands are tied, I guess he wants to say. My hands are tied, finding a platform that provides technology aid to hospitals. Please, can you help with a link or an advice or any mention of companies that you may know of in the health sector?
Okay, thank you for the question. There are actually a couple companies that are offering solutions for the health sector. I know Debos Doctora is one of them, where they have a platform that doctors can literally earn revenue from anywhere. So telemedicine, right? Telemedicine. They also have they have a solution where almost like a mobile hospital type thing, where doctors don't need to have physical structures and they can work out of their own hospitals. So Doctora is one of them. I know Doctora very well, and similar businesses. So if you search Doctora and you look at the similar businesses, they would also be able to help you. What that means is, I think that he's in the Northeast, right? If you go on the Doctora platform, you can be in the Northeast.
Yes, he is in the Northeast.
And be attending. So if you go on the Doctora platform, for example, you can be in the Northeast and be attending to patients in Lagos and be earning revenue from Lagos, and that begins to widen your earnings potential as a doctor. So and then the couple of them, they're doing wonderful things. COVID and the lockdown has sort of accelerated the growth of these businesses because, people were trying to avoid going into physical hospitals so that they
Yeah.
couldn't contract the virus. And everybody started looking at telemedicine as an alternative, So it's actually a fun time for doctoral type businesses. So I would advise him to sign up on a platform and pretty much start making money on your skill, sir.
Great, great. Thank you, Ibrahim. You brought it closer to home for me. I was ill during the pandemic, but it wasn't COVID. I was way too scared to go into the hospital, way too scared. And it was self-medication all the way. But thank you, Doctora would.
I'll get the
Can you
I'll
put it
get
on
the
the
link
chat?
and put it on the chat. I'll get the link and
Great,
put it on
thank
the chat.
you, thank you. This is for Srini. I think this probably will be my last question. The poll is up. So I think the poll will be up for another minute or two. This is for Srini. This from Quadri Adewi. It says, I'm someone who loves technology and all my business ideas are technology enabled. The major problem I do face is getting the right developer to work on my project. And when I see they charge way high, which I can't afford as a startup. In other cases, I've tried to seek a tech co-founder, but proved abortive. The few that wanted to partner can't develop the kind of technology I want. My question is, what can I do? I think this is Srini, and then Ibrahim can also chip in.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant question. I think to our tech founders, it's a more apt question for our tech founders. But I think it's an issue that most of the industry is facing today, and absolutely, one should not be working on trying to insource everything today. If you really want to be agile, you really wish to hire and fire resources or team members based on performance and outputs on a very agile basis. And I think there are a number of resources available. I mean, when you think of your development effort, there are multiple layers to your development effort. There's a UI or a user interface. There's a user journey aspect to it. There is all this backend development that gets done and the database development. And obviously, at the end of this whole thing, the whole development needs to be put onto an infrastructure, which will obviously be a cloud-based architecture or cloud-based infrastructure. All of these resourcing can be actually resourced from the internet. There are, for the UI UX, there are sites like Dribble and all. Dribble with a triple B. We can put some of those websites on the chat window. You can hire resources for as low as maybe $30 or $40 per day. I mean, for them to basically prepare some sort of a user interface for you. Obviously, that is a very basic interface that they will develop. But the more complicated your job requirement is, you will obviously incur higher and bigger costs. So a lot of work can be done there. Then there is a lot of work. I mean, you can hire resources from Fiverr. I mean, fiver.com. I mean, that's another website where you can get access to a number of resources that are freelancers that are sitting in their homes, that are probably looking for jobs, and they're willing to do work for you on a very cheap basis. And they're very dedicated resources that count the amount of time that they have actually spent on your work, on your project, and they actually make those deliverable. And again, it comes back to the fact that you don't make business on the first business, you make business on repeat business. So their first deliverable and first output is always very, very good. And if you keep engaging them, the output and the result that you get out of these freelancers is very strong, because they rely on you coming back to them to give them more and more work. So, and I think that is my take to it. And I would really like other panelists to possibly add maybe their own ideas to what I've just said. I think they're the best audience members or panelists to answer this question.
I agree. Great, Srini. Thank you. You did well. Ibrahim?
Yes, please.
You want to add to this?
Yeah, I'll have a go. First, just respond to Srinivas. I think the cheap is relative. So when he mentioned you can find You can find remote talent for cheap, pay them $40 a day, which in any other place in the world is dirt cheap, right? But as you said it, I did the numbers in my head and it's okay. $40 a day times 400 is 16,000 naira times 30, that's 480,000 naira. That is not cheap to any startup.
Bring it closer to home.
That is not, it's not enough. I just started doing the numbers in my head. If you're able to pay 480,000, might as well find a local talent that you can be sitting in front of every day and say, give my work on my product, right? Again, if you're struggling to find a technical co-founder, so there are two things, right? Or there are a number of things. It's either you're doing a very poor job at selling the dream and the idea, right? Because they're literally putting their destiny in your hands. And if it looks like this is going to be a waste of my time, I'm not going to come. Whether I can write code or not, pay me my money, let me know that I've collected money and go and do my things. See, at the start of like every startup life, right, you're going to be hungry, right?
Yeah.
So it has to be delayed gratification for a bigger reward, right? And if you're doing a poor job at selling the impact of the project, how big it can be, the amount of or the type of impact it will have on people's lives, and what the eventual reward would be or can be, then nobody's going to key into it enough to risk their destiny with your own foolish dreams, right? But at the end of the day, all the dreams are foolish. Like when Onyeka started from Crowdy, first person he probably told, I'll be like, okay, years down the line,
True.
like, they'll be like, I had that idea too that time, and that's the thing. So if you're able to, if you're able to sell it properly, right? Then you might not have issues finding a technical co-founder. And if you're still struggling to find a technical co-founder that can handle the product development and engineering side of your things, my advice would be for you to go and work in a company that is doing something similar to the idea that you have. Go and work in a startup, right? Go and work in a startup. You would then meet the people. You'll meet the people that will key into what you're trying to do. A lot of startup founders' first investment check comes from the founders of the businesses that they've worked before.
True.
Do you get what I mean? Because they already know your ability to execute. They know you and they know what you can do, so they will support it. People also, people also are able to find talent resource from the people that they've worked with before, right? If I start 10 businesses tomorrow, my co-founder at Mazda would be on minimum 9. Do you get what I mean? Like that's literally how it is, So again, be able to understand the idea. Again, remember the ideas are 2 for 10 naira. So like everybody can get.
Yeah. Everybody has a brilliant idea.
Yeah, as you're thinking about it, they're probably 100.
No idea is stupid.
No idea is stupid. Like if it's not grand enough that people think is absolutely stupid and crazy, then it's actually not big enough, right? Understand that the execution is the main work, and if you're able to sell, how you want to execute this idea, the impact that it will have on people, how grand it can be, then you'll find someone to key into it and risk their destiny on your dream. Otherwise, go and work in a company that offers something similar to what you're trying to do, Yes.
Great. Thanks, Ibrahim. Thank you. I just want to quickly remind the audience to respond to the poll. This is your chance of being selected as part of the yellow 200. Don't miss this opportunity. Please respond to the poll. You have 2 minutes left. Can I quickly bring in Linda just to give us some last words before I go through my nuggets for the day?
Thank you very much, Ada, and thanks to every member of the panel. And most importantly, thank you to everyone who's here. I think that what's very critical for us to understand as small businesses is the fact that there is no running away from technology. Technology is evolving very, very quickly, and people are embracing technology. So if you as a businessman, a businesswoman, a business owner is trying to run away from it, then you are doing yourself a big disservice. I think that it's important that you leverage every opportunity that is present itself to get to know much, to acquaint yourself with technology. Because, as I said before, every segment that will control a high percentage of consumption in the near future will be online. And the reality is that when they are online, they'll be looking for a way to fulfill all their needs online. So if your business is not well positioned online in the next 5 years, like I said before, your business is going to die. It's important that you realize this and you start to invest in research using basic tools like Google to get yourself to start moving towards being a digital native. It's also important for you not to be afraid to ask questions. It's important to embrace every opportunity that exposes you to the knowledge of technology, basic or otherwise, be it webinars, master classes such as this, or even trainings. Mr. Kere did speak about training all of us, and we'll be very happy to be in his class. There is no single source with all the answers. And this means that you have to use a mix of vehicles, whether it's traditional online searches, whether it is interest groups or forums, social media, personal contact, vendors, whatsoever it is, you have to identify the leading technology-driven solutions that will solve the key pain points that your business faces. So on this note, I just want to say thank you for being here. But I also want to say that from an ecosystem perspective, I believe that it's not enough to rule out these issues. I also believe that it's not a cliche to say that SMEs are the bedrock of the economy. I therefore believe that there is a need for stakeholders to align and find ways to close these gaps that exist for SMEs and assist them in this transformational journey from being digital immigrants, not only being fully digitally included, but also becoming digital natives. And that is what MTN will be working to achieve. It's very clear to us, from all the questions that we have, we've seen, over the course of this program. It's very important. It's very clear to us that there is so much work that needs to be done, and MTN will be standing in the middle to make sure that we achieve with our partners, what the SMEs want in the very near future. So please, keep hope alive and keep watching this space. Thank you.
Great, Linda. Thank you for the recap. I'm just going to, you've done it for me, so I don't really need to do much now. But key points from each of the speakers. Linda talked about 3 key limitations: discovery or awareness, funding, and capability. I believe that we've addressed this in the last 2 hours. Srini talked about how the internet has revolved beyond being a tool for messaging, focus on cloud-based technology and ERPs for SMEs, and the ability that utilize the ability that cloud gives you, that flexibility to switch. Mr. Oyeka has talked about understanding your customers before applying technology. He talked about observation and profiling. Mr. Ibrahim has talked about, we talked about information on the internet. He's given a lot of links to all the various small businesses that can assist our audience. Mr. Okere, he talked about the need to use the fundamental. The fundamentals are key to you, and the technology helps you to scale. He also talked about embracing the power of digitization, the ability to coach and mentor, changing your attitude towards uncertainty and take your business online. There's something else that Ibrahim mentioned that I wanted to, yes, outsourcing parts of your business. He talked about online, and Ibrahim gave a lot of links, online financial and legal tools out there. I believe he's put them on the chat. And the last one is, I love, sell the dream. Sell the dream to the technical co-founder and let them see the value in joining your startup. I just want to quickly mention, talk about the next masterclass, which is on the 9th of September. And the theme is smart marketing and sales. Your customers are out there. Please remember to register for the Revv program. I mean, this has been extremely insightful. And for me, my parting words is thank you to the panelists. Thank you to the audience, as well as the ladies and gentlemen working behind the scenes. Nobody sees them, but they're seriously doing some massive work. The program for me has been enlightening, interactive, rewarding, and I hope same for the audience. Remember that technology is now a way of life, a tool that must be leveraged to create something of value, not necessarily of value, doesn't have the value in it. You have to create it. And it's what you do with technology that makes the difference here. So it's been my pleasure being your moderator. I do look forward to the coming series. Everyone stay blessed and stay safe. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks indeed.
Thanks, Austin.
Thank you.
Thanks, Srini. Thanks, Ibrahim. Thank you, Onyeka. And thanks, Linda.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You can
Thanks.
invite me to your office and